Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Hare Krishna. It's July 10th, 2020. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. We're on text 10. Yes, text 10, Chapter 7, Canto 2. Nabhe, Nabhe, Asau,
Asau,
Rishabha,
Rishabha,
Asa,
Asa,
Sudevi,
Sudevi,
Sunu,
Sunu,
Ya,
Ya,
Vai,
Vai,
Chara,
Chara,
Samadrik,
Samadrik,
Jada,
Jada,
Yogacharyam,
Yogacharyam,
Yat,
Yat,
Paramahamsyam,
Paramahamsyam,
Vishaya,
Vishaya,
Padam,
Padam,
Amananti.
Amanati,
Okay. Svasta,
Svasta,
Prashanta,
Shanta,
Karana,
Karana,
Parimukta,
Parimukta,
Nabher Asa, Rishabha Asa, Sudevi Sunur,
Nabhe Rasa Vrishabha Asa Sudevi Suno,
Yo Vai Chachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam,
Yo Vaichachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam,
Yat Parama Hamsyam Vishaya Paramamananti.
Yat Paramamsyam Vishaya Padam Amanti,
Svasta Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha.
Vasa Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha,
Nabhera Sabrishabha Asa Sudevi Sunur.
Nabhe Rasa Vrishabha Asa Sudevi Suno,
Yo Vai Chachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam.
Yo Vaichachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam,
Yat Paramahamsyam Shaya Padam Amananti.
Yat Paramahamsyam Vishaya Padamamananti,
Svasta Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha.
Vasa Santa Karana Parimukta Sangha,
Nabhera Sabrishabha Asa Sudevi Sunur.
Rasa Vrishabha Asa Sudevi Suno,
Yo Vai Chachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam.
Yo Vaichachara Samadrik Jada Yogacharyam,
Yat Paramahamsam Rishaya Padam Amananti.
Yat Paramaham Vishaya Padamananti,
Vasta Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha.
Swasta Prasanta Karana Parimukta Sangha, Nabhe rasa vrishabha asa sudevi sunu.
Nave Rasha Vishava Asa Sudevi Sunu.
Yo vai chachara samadrigyada yogacharyam.
Yosuva Chachara Samadvijada Yogacharyam.
Yat paramaham syamrishaya padamamananti.
Yat Paramaham Samrishaya Padamamananti.
Swasta prashanta karana parimukta sangha.
Swasta Pashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha. Nave Rasa Vishava Asa Sudevi Sunu. Nave Rasa Vishava
Asa sudevi sunu.
Yo vai Chachara Samadrigyada Yogacharyam.
Yo vai chachara samadrigyada yogacharyam.
Yat Paramaham Samrishaya Padamamananti.
Yat paramaham syamrishaya padamamananti.
Swasta Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha.
Swasta prasanta karana parimukta sangha.
Nave Rasa Vishava Asa Sudevi Shunu.
Nave rasa vrishabha asa sudevi sunu.
Yo vai Chachara Samadvik Jada Yogacharyam.
Yo vai chachara samadrigyada yogacharyam.
Yat Parama Amsham Vishaya Padamamananti.
Yat paramaham syamrishaya padamanananti.
Swasta Prashanta Karana Parimukta Sangha.
Swasta prashanta karana parimukta sangha.
Hare Krishna. Would anyone else like to chant the verse? We'll go to the word for word. Nabhe by Maharaj Nabhi.
Maharaj Nabhi.
Asau,
Asau.
the personality of Godhead.
The personality of Godhead.
Rishabha,
Vrishabha.
Rishabha.
Vrishabha.
Asa,
Asa.
became. Sudevi,
Sudevi.
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 Sunu,
Sunu.
the son of.
The son of.
Ya,
Ya.
who,
Who.
by, certainly.
Certainly.
Chachara,
Chachara.
performed.
Performed.
Samadrik,
Samadrik.
equibalanced.
Equibalance.
Jada,
Jada.
material.
Material.
Yogacharyam,
Yogacharyam.
performance of yoga.
Performance of yoga.
Yat,
Yat.
which. Paramahamsyam,
Paramahamsyam.
the highest stage of perfection.
The highest stage of perfection.
Vishaya,
Vishaya.
the learned sages.
The learned sages.
Padam,
Padam.
situation. Amananti,
Amananti.
do accept.
Do accept.
Svasta,
Swasta.
self-reposed.
Self-reposed.
Prashanta,
Prashanta.
suspended.
Suspended.
Karana,
Karana.
the material senses.
The material senses.
Parimukta,
Parimukta.
perfectly liberated.
Perfectly liberated.
Sangha,
Sangha.
material contamination.
Material contamination.
Translation. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabhi, and was known as Rishabhadev. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Out of many types of mystic performances for self-realization, the process of Jata Yoga is also one accepted by authorities. Becoming like a dumb stone and not being affected by material reactions. Just as a stone is indifferent to all kinds of attacks and reattacks of external situations, similarly one practices Jata Yoga by tolerating voluntary infliction of pain upon the material body. Such yogis, out of many self-infliction methods, practice plucking out the hairs on their heads without shaving and without any instrumental help. But the real purpose of such Jata Yoga practice is to get free from all material affection and to be completely situated in the self. At the last stage of his life, Emperor Rishabhadev wandered like a dumb madman, unaffected by all kinds of bodily mistreatment. Seeing him like a madman, wandering naked with long hair and a long beard, less intelligent children and men in the street used to spit on him and urinate on his body. He used to lie in his own stool and never moved, but the stool of his body was fragrant like the smell of fragrant flowers, and a saintly person would recognize him as a Paramahamsa, one in the highest state of human perfection. One who is not able to make his stool fragrant should not, however, imitate Emperor Rishabhadev. The practice of Jata Yoga was possible for Rishabhadev and others on the same level of perfection, but such an uncommon practice is impossible for an ordinary man. The real purpose of Jata Yoga, as mentioned here in this verse, is prashanta karana, or subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga, under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. In this age specifically, this Jata Yoga cannot be of any practical value, but on the other hand, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is feasible because it is just suitable for this age. The simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Rishabhadev was the son of King Nabi and the grandson of King Agnidra, and he was the father of King Bharat, after whose name this planet Earth was called Bharatavarsha. Rishabhadev's mother was also known as Merudevi, although her name is mentioned here as Sudevi. It is sometimes proposed that Sudevi was another wife of King Nabi, but since King Rishabhadev is mentioned elsewhere as the son of Merudevi, it is clear that Merudevi and Sudevi are the same person under different names. Om Gyanatimmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Tra Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradhan Sagna Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Praishra Bhadreshu Nicham Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Nabher Asa Vrishaba Asa Sudevi Sunor Yovai Chachara Samadrig Jada Yogacharyam Yat Paramaham Rishaya Param Amananti Svasta Prasanta Karana Parimukta Sangha. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabhadev. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. So the Sanskrit verse, the lines 1, 2, and 4 have 14 syllables, and like the Chintamani Prakarasad Masu Kalpa Vriksha, Brahma Samhita verses. And then line 3 has 15 syllables, so I don't know what to do with it. Anyhow, we handled it. So this describes about Rishabhadev. This describes about Rishabhadev, and these are descendants of Manu. So Manu had 3 daughters, Devahuti, Akuti, and Prasuti. And we hear a lot about Devahuti and her husband Kardama Muni and her son Kapila Dev, who's an incarnation of God in the 3rd canto, and Akuti and Prasuti, we hear about them in the 4th canto. And then Manu and Satarupa, his wife, they had 2 sons. We hear there's King Uttanapad and Priyavrata. Uttanapad we hear a lot about in the 4th canto, and his son is Dhruva Maharaj. And we heard about him in a recent verse. And then Manu's other son is Priyavrata. And right towards the beginning of the 5th canto, we hear about Priyavrata. He was like this great sage in the mountains, completely no connection with society. And then it was his turn to be the emperor of the world. And so he didn't want to do it. But then Brahma and Narada Muni and Manu, all his ancestors, pure devotees, they come. They said, "No, this is your service here." Okay, so they convinced him. And just like with the 4 Kumaras, they were the first sons of Brahma, and he wanted them to be fruitful and multiply. And he was not able to convince them. He got angry because they were like, "No, we don't want to get into that." Okay, so Priyavrata, son of Manu, and then Priyavrata, then in the ancestry there, it goes to Maharaj Nabi. Before Nabi is Agnidra, Nabi. And then Nabi's son is Rishabhadev. Rishabhadev's an incarnation of Krishna. And so Rishabhadev's, he has 100 sons. And we hear about several of his sons. But the main one we hear about is Bharat Maharaj. And so in the 5th canto, we hear a lot about these personalities, Lord Rishabhadev and Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj is the one great king, and then renounced everything at the end. He wasn't even that young. He wasn't old. He was young. And Bharat Maharaj, and then he got bewildered by a pet deer, and then he took birth as a deer. But as a deer, he remembered his devotional past. And then in his next birth, he became Jad Bharat. It's the same word we see here, Jada Yoga. Probably the verse and the purport talk about Jada. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but the English word jaded jaded. Okay, the idea is one appears. One's actually quite spiritually intelligent, but one appears completely out of it materially, like completely dull, jaded. And so his name, so after the deer birth, Maharaj Bharat, who's the son of Rishabhadev, became Jad Bharat. He was also practicing this Jada Yoga that his father from 3 births earlier practiced, okay, if we're following. So Rishabhadev, so yes, described here, such yogis, out of many self-infliction methods, practice plucking out the hairs on their heads without shaving, without any instrumental help. So it's clearly said, kids, don't try this at home. So this whole practice of Jada Yoga, it's very clear, yeah, don't do this. Don't do this. Rishabhadev, he was an Avadhuta, and his Jad Bharat, okay, like that. And so Rishabhadev, before he renounced everything, he didn't have this very unusual behavior. He was this amazing dharmic king, more than a king. He was an emperor, just like Maharaj Yudhisthira, Maharaj Parikshit, or Lord Ramachandra. Rishabhadev was an ideal king. He didn't have this very unusual behavior like that, and he gave very sublime instructions to his 100 sons. They're described especially in the 5th chapter of the 5th canto. Very sublime instructions. There are many sections, many verses from that chapter that Prabhupada quotes again and again. If someone's into learning verses, there's many verses that Prabhupada quotes from that chapter. And then, the very first verse in that chapter, is it? Nayam deho deham bhajam viloke kastan kamam arhati vidbhujam ye tap bodhivyam puchaka yena sattvam shuddhyadyasma brahmasakyam tvanantam. He instructs his sons, headed by Maharaj Bharat. He instructs them. He says, "Yeah, don't settle. Don't be satisfied to use the human form of life for the same sorts of enjoyments that are available to the stool eaters, the pigs and the dogs, eating, sleeping, mating, defending." And he emphasized tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhya jasman brahmasakyam tvanantam, that human life is meant for tapo divyam, divine austerity, to give up the immediate gratification of the senses and the mind and the ego, to get that, to cultivate ever-increasing, everlasting spiritual bliss. Shuddhyadyasman brahmasakyam tvanantam. He said, use human life for that. Use human life for that. And as Prabhupada quotes that often. Later in that chapter, another well-known verse, Guru nasasyat, svajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat, janani nasasyat, namochayedya samupetamichum. He instructs his sons and us. He says, become a guru, become a parent, become a demigod, become a teacher. He basically says, only become a responsible person who has others dependent on them if and when you're able to liberate them from the cycle of death. So he's saying in human life, a responsible position, mother, father, teacher, guru, like that, these responsible positions, assume those responsible positions only when we're capable to liberate our dependence from the cycle of birth and death, as Rishabhadev was, and then he guided his sons in that same way. Mahat sevam dhara mahur vimuktes. That's another well-known line from a verse spoken by Rishabhadev. He says that Dhira, like the English word door, comes from the Sanskrit Dhvara. Mahat Sevam, Mahat, the great souls, the great devotees, Seva, service. Mat Sevam Dharma, Hor Vimuktes, that the doors of liberation from material suffering are opened when we serve the great devotees with sincerity. So the doors, so this is that's a key part of the Bhagavatam. Maharaj Rishabhadev's teachings to his sons, very sublime teachings with the real foundations and cornerstones of our Vaishnava philosophy. So he's a special personality. And just like that first verse, that Tapo Divyam Puchoke Nasakam, human life is meant for divine austerity. And so Rishabhadev, we can see, he renounced his kingdom and did divine austerity. So this is the point of, we want to Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. We're encouraged, if we want to progress in our spiritual life, to follow the great souls. And there's that distinction, that important distinction between following and imitating. Following and imitating. And so imitating will be, oh, okay, so I'll start pulling out my hairs, I'll start, I'll go naked. Well, he's a great soul and we're supposed to follow him. So that's what we're supposed to do. So it's an important distinction, following and imitating. Actually, when we go to the fifth canto, then there was some descendant named King Arhat, and King Arhat did like kind of inappropriate imitation of his ancestor Rishabhadev. And Prabhupada describes, he describes in his purports that the modern day hippies are descendants of Arhat. The modern day hippies are descendants of Arhat. Prabhupada also mentions that the Jains, the Jains are kind of in the line of Rishabhadev. So there's some very interesting verses and purports in the fifth canto, fifth chapter. Or maybe it's sixth chapter for first parts of it. And so so the idea is, so the principle to follow, that's it, because all these examples, we want to be intelligent and accept and receive guidance. What's the principle to follow and what's the detail not to imitate? So Prabhupada's giving guidance here, like don't do these details. But the principle is to do austerity, to give up immediate gratification of the senses, mind, material intellect, and material ego. Give up immediate gratification to cultivate our shreya, our long-term eternal benefit. And that's realizing who we are as spirit souls, and to cultivate soft-hearted, enthusiastic devotion to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And so that's the principle. We do want to do austerity, and that certainly highlights the importance of knowing and following our current link to the parampara, because through Srila Prabhupada, we get clear guidance from the examples of previous acharyas and incarnations. We get we get guidance. Okay, here's the principle. Follow that, and here's how to apply it for you in a way that will be effective, that will work for you. So, yes. So the Prabhupada actually, he mentions about the hippies, because now, of course, it's because the idea is, the hippie mentality is, let's renounce, because just like Maharaj Rishabhadev, let's not care what society thinks, right? Let's not care what society thinks. Like, yes, let's just be free, and like that. And then, of course, in the name of anti-establishment, revolutionary, we get the most conformist people we've ever met. We probably all had that experience. Okay, so but the idea, the principle, and the principle is true. Like if we really want to, and we've all probably experienced this in our life and still do, that if we really want to progress in Bhakti Yoga, spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, it is vital. It is vital that we give up attachment to what people will think of me, and the need for approval, and the need to belong, and the need to belong. Okay, so that's true. And then in renouncing that, okay, and so that's a true principle. For example, okay, so let's say India in the 1950s and 1960s compared to, let's say the hippie counterculture that developed in the mid and late 60s in the West. Indian culture from the 50s and 60s was quite dharmic. It was quite relatively sattvic, like that. At the same time, Prabhupada had much difficulty to get even like one person to commit fully to Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, because it was dharmic, but there was an attachment to mundane society, friendship, and love, and the great important advantages of like dharmic culture, even if it's Western meat-eating culture. But the idea is that, okay, like there's something healthy about peer pressure and need for approval, because that can protect us from just going into degraded sub-animal life and just being driven by our senses. Oh, I want to get a respectable job, and then people will respect me. And so that can be protective. At the same time, then when Prabhupada, of course, came to the West, and he actually spent some time amongst pretty affluent American dharmic society in Butler, Pennsylvania, on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And that was like ladies and gentlemen, and in Butler, Christians, and Upper East Side, people into what they understood was yoga, things like that. But again, people weren't like ready to like give their full life to transcendence. And then when Prabhupada went to the hippies and the beatniks, it's much, much lower modes than dharmic families in India or Butler, Pennsylvania, much lower modes. But because they were rejecting what mainstream society thought of them, there was a consciousness, there was a culture of for some, those who became Prabhupada's early followers, there was a culture of, yes, there was a readiness to give fully from wherever we're at, to give fully to transcendental life, and here's a bona fide representative and an acharya, pure example, and they were ready to give themselves fully. So it's not a linear thing. In one sense, that whole hippie culture was kind of anti-culture, lower modes, sub-animal in a way. At the same time, there was more openness than Prabhupada found amongst the kind of more organized, structured, affluent classes in both the USA and India. There was more readiness for the Sankirtan movement, like that. Okay. Now, at the same time, let's call it the austerities of, I don't want to label hippies, but we get the idea. We get the idea of that kind of anti-establishment, things like that. Well, there's it was in Prabhupada's early days it was in Boston, and there was riots. There was a lot of, just like today, this was the late 60s. And today also in the USA, there's lots of riots, and so there was protest, there's violence with the police and the protesters, like that. And they came to Prabhupada And they asked Prabhupada, which side are we on? Which side are we on? And Prabhupada said, the police and the hippie protesters, they are on the same side. So that was a bewildering response at first, but because they are both on the side of sense gratification. Another very key verse, maybe it's verse 2 or something of chapter 5 of Canto 5, spoken by Lord Rishabhadev, Pumsa striya mituni bhava metam tayor mitari dayagranti mahu ato grihakshecha sutakta vikter janasya moho yamaham ameti. So that says that this attraction between male and female, pumsa striya, sex desire, attraction between male and female, that's the knot. That's the knot. And it leads to insurance policies and things like that, and needing to take the children to Little League games and things. So, yes. And it says that kind of expands the whole material world, and it increases the illusion that I am this body, and this is me. This is me, and this is mine, and this is mine. Here's my relatives, and like that. So Prabhupada's making the point, whether it's the police or the hippies. Okay, so the idea is, okay, are the police ready to give up their beer? No. Are the hippies ready to give up their pot smoking? No. So Prabhupada says they're on the same side. They're on the side of sense gratification. The details might be different, but those distinctions are meaningless. Are they willing to give up their sex life, whether it's sex life in the forest on the blanket or in their 3-room bedroom in the suburbs? No, they're attached to that's the goal of life. So they have the same goal of life, increasing the illusion that I am this body. And again, maybe the establishment had structures that in some ways protected one from degradation, and maybe the anti-establishment side had more openness to a true, genuine, transcendental process. So there's some advantages both ways. So the idea is, because the Bhagavad Gita describes austerity in different modes. So what's described here, if not done properly, and it's very clear, we're not meant to do Jata Yoga in this age. That's not our process. And if we try to do it, it becomes what Bhagavad Gita calls austerity in the mode of tamas, austerity in the mode of ignorance. And we just torture the body, and it doesn't lead to bodily detachment. Maybe we do it to get some attention, maybe some name and fame. And so the idea is, the principle is we want to do austerities, and we're guided. We're guided by our current link to the parampara, right? So give up the immediate ignorant pleasure of sleeping late and rise early, take bath or shower, and sing some Saradava. And so that's it, like that. And so chant at least a fixed number of Hare Krishna Mahamantra rounds per day. And so, so our austerity is to eat only prasadam, and to eat only prasadam, and like that. It's true. Right? So this is where, it requires. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and she had read something in Prabhupada's books, and she was disturbed and upset. She was unsettled and disturbed, and like that. And she didn't have the exact reference, but she said, I said, oh, okay. And then we kind of talked about. I said, okay. So those 2 or 3 sentences you read, I hear that's unsettling, and the basic, and that's giving one part of it, and the more complete, the totality of the teachings has there's that perspective within this context like that, and it's just, oh, okay, okay, that all makes sense. Even those three unsettling sentences, I can see that for that particular purpose in that. So that's very important, just like here. And here Prabhupada's making it so clear, like, don't do this. But here we can read that and here's the Hare Krishna books. And they're into plucking out hairs on their heads and like that. I mean, someone could read it like that. So we want to be sober and understand Prabhupada in the context of the totality of his teaching, of his teachings, and perform austerity in a way where we're balanced, and this process is joyfully performed, and we're actually getting realization of who I am as spirit, soul, not the body, and we're developing enthusiasm to serve Krishna, because that's, like, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. And to the extent that we're in the bodily concept of life, then we're going to be envious, because bodily concept of life is the main goal of the universe, is that this body will be gratified. And then if we hear we hear like Krishna with the gopis, we'll naturally be envious. We'll naturally feel envy. Like, why should Krishna be the supreme enjoyer? Whereas we do austerities in a way where we're properly guided, and we get that fully balanced guidance from Srila Prabhupada in a way where we're properly guided, then gradually we become blissful in that ultimate transformation of consciousness from bodily conception, I am this body and everything connected with this body, this is mine, from bodily conception to realizing, oh, I'm a spirit soul and I'm meant to serve and support Krishna's enjoyment. And that's our blissful transformation. Yes, otherwise we'll naturally be envious. Why should Krishna enjoy it? And even if we say, then we'll try to develop philosophies that there is no supreme. And that's a way where I get to be the supreme enjoyer. And then the envy will be directed towards Krishna's children, maybe our next door neighbor or our competitor in business, or this one's more handsome than me, this one's richer than me, like that. And then we develop, through divine austerity, we develop devotional consciousness, understanding who I am as spirit, soul. Savaya pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktirat hokshajek aitukya pratyata yayatma suprasidate. That the supreme dharma, the supreme occupation for everyone, for all living entities, for all humanity, is that which provokes attraction to hear and chant about Vasudev Sri Krishna, and that inspires devotional service, inspires a devotional consciousness, and when that service mentality is uninterrupted, meaning I'm not going to be distracted by this gross or subtle material temptation, then we're completely satisfied. So ahetuk means no material reason. Ahetukya pratyata. Nothing material can get in the way of our sincere desire to serve Krishna, and that's the bliss of the soul, and that's empowerment. That's what it means. That if I'm fixed, if I'm deep in that, all I want to do is to serve Krishna with love and devotion through Srila Prabhupada, nothing can take that away. No pandemic, no insult. Then I'm strong. Then I'm in a position where I cannot be victimized. And supporting others to come to that consciousness, that's real friendship. That's real friendship. I cannot be victimized by the material energy in any of its form. I'm completely autonomous in my bliss. I am dependent on nothing material. I am dependent spiritual bhakti yoga, on spiritual service. Nothing can interfere with that. Since we're talking about, let's call it deviant, sort of false shadow sorts of austerities. I remember when I was in my days when I was kidnapped, and after I was kidnapped, this was in 1984. Then after some days in Philadelphia, they sent me to a rehab center in Iowa. And anyhow, it's a whole story. Some of you have heard parts of that story. But I remember during those 2 weeks or so, part of my deprogramming process was they had me speak, some in person, some on the phone, with some former persons who were connected with Krishna consciousness and then left. And I remember that in talking to all of them, there was 3 of them in particular, and in talking to all 3 of them, what I noticed they had in common, and I was 23 years old at the time, and like that. But what I noticed was they were all doing some really twisted form of Jata yoga. Yes, they were. Yeah, there was one young woman, and she was telling me, she was there. She came to the house in Philadelphia where I was held, in Northeast Philadelphia, where I was held against my will. And she was saying that, she was saying that before she had a guru, and before the guru would visit, for like the week before, when she was chanting japa, while she was chanting japa, she would bang her head against the wall. No, really, I'm not making this stuff up. But the idea was like, in her mind, like that showed, she was like giving herself some pain, and that showed how spiritual it was like really weird. And even at that time, I hadn't read too many of Prabhupada's books, but I kind of saw like, I didn't tell her that, but in myself, I was like, that's not really the process, but so, but because I was doing a strategy where I was kind of like convincing them that I was seeing the light and things like that. And then another fellow, he told me he was in the Toronto temple for like 5 years, and he was telling me that he was like, he was so serious in the process. And he was saying like each day he would just have like 2 chapatis and a palm full of rice. It was hard for me to keep a straight face because I was just coming from the Radhana Center, Radhana Hare Krishna Center in Israel, and they would like, what many probably remember is like, no, sometimes the devotees would crowd around and watch Bhakta Dev and how much he could eat at one time. Really, it's true. And so he was saying, so again, I was like, well, based on my experience, this kind of one chapati thing, that's not the process. But I didn't tell him that because I was like, wow, you were really serious. And then I remember he told me, he goes, okay, and then his mother arranged, he got kidnapped and they put him in a car, and he went, and he told me, he goes, he said, and by the end of the first day, mountains, yes, with me, he wrote mountains, thank you, thank you, with appreciation. Yes, so then he said, by the end of the first day, after the first day of the program, he said, all I wanted to do was play my guitar and eat a hamburger. So that's again, I needed to like, I was very like conscious of my nonverbals because I was like leading them on like, I got, yeah, because you realized you'd really been brilliant. But kind of like, it's one thing if he goes like, okay, I want to play my guitar. I want to get with my girlfriend. Okay. But kind of like, if after 5 years, so-called practicing bhakti yoga, and then after a few hours with these people called deprogrammers, you want to eat a hamburger, kind of like, you never really got much of this, did you? Like you really missed it. like if like that, like you really didn't absorb anything, did you? Okay, so all three of them I met, they were clearly on some like kind of false yogi trip. They were on, and they were sharing with me things that were clearly like austerities that were not really like, that they weren't under Prabhupada's guidance, and they weren't and they were in lower modes. They were for other ambitions, clearly, and austerities that did not lead one to realize that I'm not the body and to develop a soft heart like that. Okay, I'll stop here. I'll read the verse. Nabher asa bishava asa sudevi sunor yopai chachara samadri chara yoga charyam yat parama hamsyam vishaya param amananti svasta prashanta karana parimukta sangha. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabhadev. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. Hare Krishna, thanks for listening. I welcome any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Yes, Azim.
Okay, so we're talking about austerity, and Prabhupada says that chanting the Maha Mantra, that's the best austerity to do, at least in this day and age. And so I've been thinking, maybe since yesterday, I had this question of, okay, so the names of Krishna are equally as powerful as Krishna, non-different. So if the mantra is so powerful, how come we need to chant it even more than once? Why does it not instantaneously dispel everything, all illusion, all material attachment? Why? Yeah, if it's like equally as powerful as Krishna, why doesn't it instantly destroy everything one time?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, I see that question. That points to the factor of our sincerity, of our sincerity, because Krishna is all powerful, and Krishna's name are non-different. Namo Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. And at the same time, Krishna, he does not remove our free will. He doesn't remove our free will. And so we have, just like Prabhupada would sometimes say, well, how come Krishna would let us come here to the material world? And Prabhupada would say, Krishna didn't want to let you come here. You insisted. So we, in conditioned life, we tend to be fiercely attached to non-Krishna. We tend to be fiercely attached to I am this body and this is mine and I will be the supreme controller and I'll be the center. So Krishna, he doesn't interfere with our free will. So just like even like the way you termed the question, like, yeah, why do we have to chant it more than once? We don't. We chant it once and the holy name is powerful enough that we're completely blissful and free from material misery just once. Once is sufficient. Oh, okay, so once and that's it. But once I have that mentality, then I'm using my free will to immerse myself in illusion, to immerse myself. So Krishna doesn't take away free. What I'm saying is, so like a devotional mentality, yes, once is sufficient. That's true. Once is sufficient. And then if I'm sincere, then it's not a have to, then like I'm eager to chant Krishna's name again and again. I want to be absorbed in Krishna's name and Krishna's pastimes and the pastimes of Rishabhadev and like that. And so that's the devotional consciousness. To come to devotional consciousness, chanting Krishna one time, that's sufficient. That's sufficient for liberation. All right. And then what am I choosing from that liberated platform? Am I using my free will to reject Krishna and get entangled again? Or the devotional consciousness is, of course, chanting one time is sufficient. And I want to chant 24 hours per day. And I'm up, like the gopis were, yes, out of addiction. Thank you. Thank you, Rukmini. Yes, the gopis were cursing Lord Brahma that he built bodies that the eyes would blink and they wouldn't see the form of Krishna for a split second. So that's the mood of the devotee. I wish I had thousands of tongues to chant Krishna's names thousands and thousands of times. It's not the mentality. So chanting once is sufficient. So I chant once, and then I can go and be happy and do my life and forget about chanting. So yeah, so once we have that, any seeds of that mentality, it means we're using our free will to immerse ourselves in illusion again. So that's our tendency. And that's why, they would ask Prabhupada, oh, 16 rounds is pretty tough, 16 rounds. 16 rounds is a real austerity. So Prabhupada would go, why 16? It should be 16,000. So that's the mood. That's the mood. Like, oh, I wish I could chant 16,000 per day. 16 rounds. Oh, I don't want to stop. Let me chant at least 25 per day, then get on to other service. Let me read more Bhagavatam. So because we're so materially addicted, materially attached to illusion in life, to forget Krishna, therefore we're guided, okay, chant at least 16 rounds per day. Study do a Bhagavatam class for at least an hour in the morning, just some structure, and by following that structure, we gradually become less fiercely dedicated to illusion and more inclined to choose Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I mean, what I hear is that in a way the potency of the mantra depends on the sincerity of whoever is chanting it, because Krishna is not going to take away my free will. And so if I chant it, but I don't really want liberation, Krishna could give me full liberation or whatever, the full benefit from the mantra. The potency is there, and I'll only get as much as Krishna really knows that I'm asking for with each mantra.
Yeah, thanks for that reflection and your sincerity to understand. It's just like the sun is fully competent to illuminate everything in light. Okay, but if I'm hiding behind covers in a closet in a basement, and I go, I don't believe in the sun. I don't believe in the sun. Okay, well, look, the sun's illuminating everything. You have the choice to come outdoors, or at least come into a room where there's windows. Okay, well, I'll agree to open the door, and then maybe I get a few rays. So the sun is there, and we have a choice. We have a choice. We have a choice to be outdoors. We have a choice to appreciate the sun, or we can lock ourselves in darkness. And even in doing that, we can say, and I don't even believe there's a sun, like that. So that's maybe a crude analogy. And so it's true. One name of God is completely potent for liberation, and at the same time, Krishna is not forcing us to come out of our dark closet.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Azay. Hare Krishna.
There is another aspect to your question that came to my mind. You said, well, if the holy name is as powerful as Krishna, how come, we are not right away liberated when we chant one holy name, meaning that Krishna is more powerful than his holy name. And in the same way that when we are in contact with the holy name, we may not absorb or receive the holy name. In that same way, when Krishna is present on earth, for example, not everybody accept or receive Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead or get realization from presence with him. There's so many examples of that. Lord Chaitanya too, there's people who are against him, there's people who are trying to shut him down, and same thing for Srila Prabhupada, same thing for Jesus Christ. So our relationship with the name is non-different than the form of Krishna or his pastime of Krishna. And it's not like one is more powerful than the other. It's like it all depends on our sincerity and willingness to receive the Lord.
Thank you, Malini.
Yes, thank you. Anandini.
Yes, I was thinking that recently I started to go back to the prayers I grew up with from Christianity, the Our Father prayer.
Yes.
One of them, and I remembered, as a child, I was thinking a lot about what is the meaning of this. There's one line where it says, "Thy will be done." I think it's in English.
Thy will be done. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done.
Yes.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah. And I connected it to, in Srila Prabhupada suggests or encourages us to chant in the mood of, please engage me in your service.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, so I have this consciousness 99.9999 of the time that I need to do something else.
Yeah.
That's God's will. I need to find out what is God's will, and then I need to do that. And meditating on this, thy will be done, and also reading from a Christian priest, he said, well, thy will be done, it's already, everything that's happening is God's will, everything. And it's just, this prayer is for us to come to that consciousness, to that perspective too, that everything in my life, the bee that flies by, anything,
Yes.
is God's will. And then I thought about changing my prayer during chanting, not as much for service, but for loving devotion, to get this perspective of that more, and it's not about doing something else, it's about doing what I do more and more with love and devotion.
Yes. Yeah.
And it seems like, as his question, that for me it relates to this change of perspective, or getting free from Maya.
I appreciate your sharing. Yeah, that change of heart, change of perspective, change of heart. I sent this quote to the Bhakti Yoga Discussions Facebook thing, page the other day, and I've sent it a few times over the years. It's a purport in the 4th canto, and Prabhupada says, one who thinks that everything is Maya instead of thinking that everything is Krishna is an offender, actually. Because we can think, this is what I'm doing is Maya, or like that. But yeah, the realization of a true devotional heart is that no, everything is Krishna. And Maya means that which is not. And factually, everything is connected with Krishna. And so whether it's that chair or that movie or whatever, what's happening on TV or whatever. It is connected with Krishna. It is connected with Krishna. So it's not Maya. I might be in Maya not realizing the connection, not realizing how everything is Krishna's will, not realizing the connection of everything with Krishna. And then through the chanting with that devotional heart, with that prayerful mood, then we come to realize the connection of everything with Krishna and how to use everything in connection with Krishna. And hearing your sharing on Nandini, it's about with love and devotion, because again, related to Azay's question, like, well, we can't chant one and then one time and then we're liberated. Okay, then we can. But liberation in Bhakti Yoga means that we're in love with Krishna. And then of course we want to chant his name again and again. And we want to do service and we want to talk about him and share about him with others. And so it's not a mentality of, okay, I can kind of game the system and I chant once, then I'm liberated, then I can do my illusory life again. So I like that you focused on that love and devotion. And then when, to the extent that we're really connected with that love and devotion, realizing Krishna everywhere, then naturally we want to chant 16,000 rounds like that.
Yeah, and we'll naturally stop doing things that are, I don't know, mixed with some kind of violence to some living entity.
Yep.
And it'll just become natural.
Yep.
And the consciousness of separation,
Yeah.
it's so strong. I don't think I realize, I know I don't realize how strong it is. But I'm just, this morning I went shopping and I thought, okay, thy will be done. So this is God's will. I'm in this shopping grocery store. And I felt not even a second, it was like, wow, so amazing. And then I was just shopping and oh no. Yeah, it's so strong, this disconnection.
Yeah, the power of Maya. And it's not Maya's fault. That's like the power of our deep desire to be in Maya, to be overwhelmed by Maya. And like in one moment we're completely overwhelmed by the tidal wave of Maya. And that's where because everything's Krishna's will, in a sense. That doesn't mean that whatever we do is equally pleasing to Krishna, because Krishna is a person. Of course, Krishna always loves us. God's always loving us, and so not a blade of grass moves without the will, the sanction, the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, Krishna is a person, and so there's some things we can do that are pleasing that person more, and there's some things that we do because like everything's Krishna, including the chair, the vodka in the vodka bottle, the movie, the TV show. It is all Krishna. It's Krishna's energy. It's all connected with Krishna, and Krishna has a particular energy called Maya that's particularly designed to throw us and keep us in that illusion of separation from Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anandini.
I wanted to share something in regards to like sincerity that has helped me. Someone told me this story that I think is similar to stories, maybe some stories in the Bhagavatam or something, but this one helped me. It is from some Russian art film. It's about a man whose brother is terminally ill, and he hears about this magical room that's so powerful that your heart's deepest, innermost desire is fulfilled by finding the room and wishing from that place. So he spends like goes on this whole adventure to find the room, And finally he finds it, and he wishes for his brother to be healed. And when he opens his eyes, the room is full of money and jewels. And so his brother dies and he kills himself. And for me, like that helps me just kind of empathize with myself and be like, well, like I get this man cares about his brother as much as I care about Krishna. Like it's like, yeah, I want to serve Krishna. I want to realize Krishna and love Krishna, and like I care more about other things right now, and that's from like my choices and my conditioning, and like the process of bhakti like helps me to clarify that sincere intention and like the purity of my wish to actually be liberated and love Krishna. You're on mute if you're speaking.
Thank you, Narayan. Thanks for sharing that story, realization, and your personal process there. Yeah, it does. For me, it does further illuminate and bring home that point of free choice. That's it. That's what personalism means. That like that we're really choosing. We're really choosing. I just want to serve Krishna. I just want to love Krishna. And like there's no trick around that. Like it comes down to like that's really what we want. And I like how you're looking at like, well, yeah, I want that. I mean, you know, that pops up in my consciousness once in a while, but 98.3% of the time I'm immersed there. And so yeah, there's just no way around that personal responsibility. And I like how you shared, Narayan, and the whole process of bhakti yoga is it's not mechanical, but it is designed. The more we follow it, the more that the 1% that I do want to love Krishna and I don't want cheating anymore. Okay, then that becomes 2% as we practice the process for another few months or another few years, and that becomes 3%. And it can seem gradual and slow, but it's the only thing that's meaningful. It's the only thing that's meaningful. Thank you for sharing.
Hare Krishna.
Ladini Shakti.
I want to say that I appreciate Eze's questions. Every time I come, I look forward what will Eze ask about. And then what comes to me when Anandini shared about the prayer that she has during chanting japa.
Yeah.
So that's actually a question I have had, because you often say, Dhira Govinda Prabhu, when we have like the round together or something, that when we chant Hare Krishna mantra, that the prayer behind it is like, my dear Krishna, my dear Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your service.
Yeah.
And my like common question to that is like, well, but like that's maybe not like sincerely what my prayer is.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it like a rule? Like, is it like the Srila Prabhupada is saying like that's what sometimes I even heard you say, like that's what does it mean? Like when we chant Hare Krishna mantra, it means please Krishna engage me in your service. So is it like what it means? Or is it like focusing on the Maha Mantra without like praying anything on the back of our head? Or is it like doesn't matter what we pray at the back of our head during japa? Or I would like to understand more.
Well, my understanding from Srila Prabhupada is like, yeah, that's a recommended spirit and mood of the sincere chanter. And like, yeah, like that's the essence of the energy of the mantra. Because it's not like this, and with like it's not like because the idea is while we're chanting, to be focused with heart, soul, and mind and hearing on the sound vibration. Not that we're distracted by a prayer, But Prabhupada says, see, this Hare Krishna Maha mantra, again, it's not like a material linear dichotomy. What I'm saying is, like Prabhupada said, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, it is the original energy, the original consciousness of the spirit soul. Yes, and the eternal dharma of the spirit soul is to serve Sri Sri Radha Krishna with love and devotion. So in that sense, yeah, that soul-felt prayer, that is the essential meaning of the mantra. Now, if we're chanting Hare Krishna to pray that I make that sale today, if we're chanting Hare Krishna to pray that I don't get sick, that I get cured, if I'm chanting Hare Krishna that my enemies will be destroyed, that's all good. Akama sarvakama moksha kamu dardi tivrena bhakti yajeta pushampura. Itanya vidimananam ichitam akatobayam yoginam nipanyanitam haranam kirtanam. Those are verses that say, whatever our mood, Krishna says, we approach for money, we approach to relieve distress, we approach because I'm just curious about this, whatever our approach, whatever our mentality, it's all auspicious, okay? And then we get purified to chant with more and more purity. So yeah, so that is the meaning of the mantra. The Hare Krishna mantra, it is the original consciousness of the soul. It's the soul of the soul. Prabhupada says that in his famous, well-known Happening album. And the Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajika Bunoy Shavanani Shuddhachitta Karye Udai, that love of Krishna is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. It's not something to be gained from some external source. And it's awakened by this hearing and chanting Hare Krishna. And like when Anandini shared, like, well, I'm not so much praying from service, I'm praying for love and devotion. To me, like, it takes different forms. So service to Krishna, that's the soul of our soul. Love of Krishna is the soul of our soul. If we love somebody, because love is a feeling, that's true, but it's only partially true. If we really love someone, we want to serve them. So it's kind of, maybe it's a different prayer, but it's one.
What is your understanding of this is like an original vibration of ourself? Or that Krishna is the soul of our soul?
Yeah, that Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the ground of existence, the very ground of existence of all the energies, including the jiva. The very ground of existence is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, expanded in the material realm as Paramatma, like that. So the very ground of existence is personal. And so just like more subtle than gross matter, then there's the mind, intelligence, ego. And then more subtle than matter is the spirit soul. And then even more subtle is Paramatma, and even more subtle, the very ground of existence, the very substratum of matter, the very substratum of spiritual energy is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. That's my understanding.
Not that I understand it more, but after you shared, but like, does it mean that like if we are completely purified, that like all there is this like transcendental sound vibration? Like, what does it, I mean?
I would say that statement is true. I don't have much realization. There's even some of the prayers by the Vaishnav poets that there's nothing in this universe other than the holy name. In the Christian, Jewish, Judeo-Christian, Islamic tradition, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the Word. So yeah. It's all transcendental sound vibration, which is non-different from transcendental form, transcendental fragrance, like that. Yeah. You're trying to wrap your mind around it. I get that.
Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Jai Hare Krishna.